Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, I hope you are all fine. I'm going to share another video with you. The topic of this video is barriers to good listening. As you all know that listening is a very useful and worthwhile activity, but unfortunately attention is not given to the process of listening. People listen to a limited quality of what is spoken to them. Only 25% is listened to what is spoken. A good listener cannot recall completely what he has heard. It means that there are certain obstacles which hamper in his act of recalling a thing. These obstacles are called listening barriers. We can classify them in the following manner. The first is psychological barriers. There are some psychological barriers which injure or weaken the process of listening. They are following. The first is prejudices against the speaker. A listener does not pay attention to the words of the speaker who is in conflict with these ideas. He will not pay attention to the words of a person who has different sets of values and attitude from him. This prejudice will make his listening a shallow thing. The second psychological barrier is different background. Sometimes it so happens that a speaker has a different background from a listener. Every person brings with him his own values and traditions. A listener's background can be different from a speaker. This thing also affects the process of listening. The third psychological barrier is thinking speed. Sometimes it so happens that most of us speak very fast. A good listener fails to catch speed of the speaker's words. He may miss many points. His thinking faculty does not work as fast as the speaker's words. The result is that he cannot focus his attention on all points. The fourth psychological barrier is emotional ups and downs. A listener may suffer from emotional ups and downs. He may be worried and angry at the time of listening. His mind may be occupied. He may soar to daydreaming. In this mental and emotional condition, he cannot listen to. The fifth psychological barrier is self-centered listeners. Some listeners are self-centered. They think that they are superiors to others. They suffer from an illusion of their superiority. They consider the speaker an inferior person. In this way, they separate themselves from the speaker. As a result, their capacity for good listening suffers setback. The sixth psychological barrier is tendency to contradict. There are listeners who try to contradict each word of the speaker. They are always after an opportunity to contradict the speaker. This tendency to contradict does not allow them to understand these words of the speaker fully. They are always to attack and make a rebuttal of the speaker's view. The second barrier to listening is external barriers. There are some external barriers which injure or weaken the process of listening. The first external barrier is noise. All types of noise affect the process of listening. Noise includes the noise produced by machines, horns of vehicles, fans, music, loudspeakers, etc. Suppose a person happens to listen a thing in a room where TV is on. Can he listen to anything? No, he won't be able to listen to anything because of the noise. The second external barrier is visual barriers. The glaring lights and decorated rooms are some of the external barriers. The fantastic dress of the speaker, his hairstyle, use of perfume, and a golden watch may drive away the listener's attention. Posters on walls may catch his attention while he is busy in conversation with a friend or a colleague. So visual barriers are also external barriers in listening. There are also some emotional barriers to listening. The first is mental and emotional health. The process of listening is affected by the mental and emotional health of the speaker. A speaker may be having some imaginary fears. He may be anxious about the welfare of his family. He may be sad and lonely. He may have come across a tragic and sad incident in his life. He may be angry and frustrated at the failure of some of his plans. All these psychological factors hamper the process of positive and healthy things. There are also some linguistics and semantic barriers. The first is style of speaking. There are listeners who do not like the affected style of speaking on the part of the speaker. A speaker may speak in a rhetorical or effective manner. A listener will not pay attention to the words of such a speaker. The second is use of difficult and technical words. The use of technical words on the part of the professional people like doctors, engineers, and scientists may hamper the process of listening. Sometimes the speaker may speak in a certain jargon. A listener may not pay full attention to his difficult words because that vocabulary is beyond his understanding. Then another barrier is slow speed. A speaker may stammer, he may speak very slow. A listener soon feels tired at the slow utterance of his words and stops taking interest in his talk. And the fourth barrier is use of ambiguous words. Sometimes the use of ambiguous words creates a difficult situation for the listener. He may fail to understand the true meaning of his talk. There are words who have trouble meaning. If the speaker uses such words, the listener may miss the real point of message. The fifth barriers to communication, especially to listening, is sociocultural barrier. Different cultural backgrounds. A speaker may belong to a different cultural, religious, or political background from the listener. Different social and cultural background may urge people to speak different languages. They may speak and spell words in a different way. An Asian is quite different from a European. This creates an uncomfortable situation if a speaker belongs to one culture